Robert and Lily were an adorable couple that had met when they were only in high school. They had a long and beautiful marriage of more than 40 years and three beautiful children. Robert considered himself a very lucky man. He had everything he could ever want. What he didn't know at the time was that his life would be later turned upside down in the worst way possibly imaginable. It all started when Lily began feeling strangely tired in the middle of the day. She struggled to find the energy to keep up with the hobbies she used to enjoy, like hikes, walks with her beloved dog, and gardening. No matter how much sleep she got, she never felt well rested. She knew something was wrong. She went to the doctor, where she underwent lots of tests and scans before finally receiving the news that she had been most scared of. She had cancer, and it was advanced. She likely had less than a year to live. As she drove home from the doctor's office, tears streamed down Lily's face. She was scared, of course, but more so, she was heartbroken for her husband. Her children were grown and had families of their own. They would be okay without her, but she knew that this news would crush Robert. When she walked inside her home, Robert greeted her with loving arms as always. The smile on his face quickly dropped when he saw the concern in his wife's eyes. They sat on the couch hand in hand as Lily tearfully explained her diagnosis. At first, Robert was in complete denial. He was sure that the doctor had made some sort of mistake. He demanded that Lily go to another hospital to get a second opinion. But as time went on and Lily's condition worsened, he was forced to accept her fate. Robert became Lily's caregiver. He stayed by her side day in and day out. He cooked her meals, made sure she was as comfortable as possible, and played her favorite music. While he felt like the world was crashing down around him, he remained strong for his wife and never cried in front of her. He was always there to dry her tears. A little more than a year later, Robert knew somewhere deep inside that his wife's battle was coming to an end. She didn't eat or talk much, and she slept most of the day. Wanting to be as close as possible to his wife, Robert slipped into bed alongside her. While holding her hand, he slowly drifted off to sleep. It was the next day, a Sunday, when he woke up and realized that Lily had passed on. She had gone peacefully in her sleep. After Lily's death, Robert fell into a deep, dark depression. He got up every morning, got dressed, and went about his day. He took care of himself and his home, but he was surviving, not really living. Life had lost all meaning for him when Lily died. His children became very concerned for him. Because he was retired, he spent most of his days sitting in front of the television. His children, all of whom lived in a different state, encouraged him to get a part-time job so he could get out of the house and get some socialization. In order to make them happy, he ended up taking a job as a barista at a local coffee shop. The job was easy enough, and it helped break up Robert's painfully long days. At first, when he was still getting to know the menu, working kept his mind busy enough that for a few moments or so, he would be temporarily distracted from the pain coming from the gaping hole in his heart. But at the end of the day, he would always end up in the same place, the bed that he and his wife had once shared. Her side of the bed was now cold and empty. By the time a year had passed since he had lost Lily, Robert's pain had become unbearable. His grief had become so powerful that it was all he could focus on. He decided he simply couldn't go on. One Monday morning, as he set off to work, he decided this would be his last day on Earth. When he got home, he was going to take his own life. He hoped that this would allow him to reunite with his wife in heaven. He was antsy throughout his shift, checking the time often. He was ready to go home and carry out his plan, and he was so distracted that he almost didn't notice when a thin, teenage girl with long, dark hair stepped into the mostly empty coffee shop. She had piercing blue eyes and a kind smile. There was something about her that sort of reminded Robert of his late wife. The girl ordered a peppermint latte and then went to sit down at a nearby table to wait while it was prepared. As Robert made the drink, he couldn't help but notice a slightly strange coincidence. Not only did the girl look similar to Lily, but she had ordered what had been her very favorite drink. Robert remembered all the times he had picked up a peppermint latte and brought it to his wife at her office. The thought made him smile for the first time in what felt like ages. When he finished with the drink, he placed it on the counter for the girl to pick up. He was caught off guard when she slid a folded piece of paper across the counter and shot him a smile before grabbing her drink and walking out the door. Robert didn't know what to make of the gesture. He picked up the paper and slowly unfolded it. Inside was a handwritten note. It read, "Hello. You don't know me, but I come to this coffee shop a lot to study. I noticed that you often look very sad. I don't know what you're going through, but if you ever need a friend or a listening ear, I'm here for you. Sincerely, Lily." At the bottom of the note, there was a smiley face and a phone number. Robert couldn't blink back the tears that pricked his eyes over and over again. He hadn't remembered seeing the girl ever before, but then again, he had been pretty distracted with grief over the past year. The fact that she had noticed his pain and taken the time to actually say something to him touched his heart deeply. He couldn't believe that someone actually cared. Above all, Robert was shocked by the coincidence. What were the chances that the girl had the same name as his late wife? He couldn't control the tears now flowing freely down his face as he thought of the girl's eyes, so similar to that of his wife's. He read the note over and over again, taking note of the fact that it was written in pink ink, his wife's favorite color. He knew deep inside that the girl had been sent to him that day for a reason. Sent to him, maybe even by his wife from heaven. Robert knew at that moment that it had been wrong of him to give up. He had to carry on and make the most out of his life. It was what his wife would have wanted. A sense of peace washed over him. That night when he got home, he called the phone number that was left on the note. He and the young Lily talked for a long time. He opened up to her about his wife's death, how hard things had been for him lately, and how much her note had truly meant to him. Lily listened and even asked questions about how he had met his wife and what their favorite things to do were together. For the first time in a long time, Robert laughed as he recalled some of his favorite memories from his marriage. Robert was shocked when Lily explained to him that earlier that year, she had lost her older brother. He had suffered from depression and taken his own life. In honor of his memory, she decided to spread love wherever she went. Whenever she saw someone who seemed to be struggling, she would try to be there for them in whatever way she could, even if it meant only a simple note. In the case of Robert, the note had made all the difference. From that day on, Robert and Lily shared a very powerful connection. She welcomed him into her family, and he got to meet her parents and many siblings. Because his own family lived so far away, it meant a lot to be invited to Sunday dinners and holiday festivities. For the first time in a long time, he felt like people cared about him. He had discovered a newfound purpose for life, and all because of a simple, handwritten note that came from the heart.